I'd like to call this to order. First, let me say all commissioners are present and accounted for, except President Lynch, Commissioner Napper, Commissioner Engel, and Commissioner Rothrock. And we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Robarchak.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let me just say, we have met in executive session. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'd like to say we met in executive session to discuss matters of real estate and personnel, and litigation. Next, we will have petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Do we have anybody? Okay, next we'll have the approval of minutes, the April 12, 2018 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll have approval of minutes for the April 26th workshop meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Well,
Oh.
I think we vote on each individually.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun, aren't I?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Aye.
Hey, we're gonna get out of here, okay? I'm sorry about that, so let me go back. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion approved, okay. April 26, 2018 workshop meeting, can I get a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, are there any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, okay. Next, we'll have recognitions and presentation. We'll do Ms. Sarah Sweeney first, and then Mr. John Taylor.
Sarah, would you like to come up and join us, please? Sarah, we'd like to thank you, Sarah Sweeney, for 18 years of service at Indian Wheels. Most of you are aware that Indian Wheels is a volunteer service provided by the township volunteers provide the service. They give seniors rides to doctor's appointments and to pharmacies and grocery stores, things they really need. So it's a very vital service. And most people don't realize the amount of volunteer hours that go into it. It's a lot of work. You schedule your volunteers to drive, and you have to match them with the schedules of your clients. So we appreciate the tremendous work you've done these past 18 years and still going as a volunteer. Yes, and we
Yes.
appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And it's been an honor to be the manager of Susquehanna Township Indian Wheels for the past 18 years. And we're still going strong.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And
Thank
we have
you.
a
Thank
plaque
you
we'd
so
like
much
to
for your
present.
service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm here tonight to present a plaque to John Taylor, a member of the Susquehanna Township Planning Commission. And the plaque, John, if you could come forth, the plaque merely says Susquehanna Township in appreciation to John Taylor for 16 years of dedicated service on the Planning Commission. And I should add that I've actually known John for 36 years, professionally, and then last 6 years as a constituent. And, this award is very, very brief, but it's pretty, it's nice. But what I have to say about John is that I remember him as a reporter. And as a reporter, he was open, unbiased, fair, and asked the right questions. And for the last 16 years, as a member of the Planning Commission of Susquehanna Township, he's been fair, and he's asked the right questions, and unbiased, and all those same attributes that he brought to the profession of reporting. And I wish we had reporters like him today. He's been retired for how long, John, from reporting?
16 years.
16 years. Okay, all the time you were with the Planning Commission. But we're very blessed to have had you on the Planning Commission. We thank you, and here's a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you, Tom. You notice he said I was a fair reporter, not a good reporter. But this is unnecessary but deeply appreciated. I got that from a tip jar. And I enjoyed my 16 years on the Planning Commission, and I want to thank the Township Commissioners for allowing me to serve. And I want to thank the staff for educating me, and I want to thank my fellow planning commissioners for putting up with me for those 16 years.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Okay, next we'll have the report of committees. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Pine? Commissioner Pine, sorry.
No report, Madam President.
Thank you. Budget, Finance, Insurance, and Pension.
Yes, very briefly, thank you. Continuing to report that we will be very soon having the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to review the initial draft of this year's budget, which will be the first year of a 5-year plan. And rather than going through the normal review process of the budget beginning in late summer, early fall, my intention is to prepare this draft and present multiple alternatives to the entire board for consideration and review and debate and discussion this year for a very practical reason. There's a lot to consider. And two, it's going to require some thought. Honestly, I really believe that this is going to put the township on a long-term path that could be altered, but whatever path is chosen is going to really require a little more time than maybe 2.5 months. So just to keep in mind that think about it like this. You have a basic architecture, and you can do that every year, and we do that every year. But if you're going to buy a car, the car comes as a base model. You know what it's going to be every single year, but you can always add options. And sometimes the options are for luxury, sometimes they're for safety, sometimes they're for space. Those options require consideration. And when you look at a township's budget, it touches so many facets of the public from a short-term and a long-term perspective that I think we need more time to consider the whole. Context is important. So the phrase that I have been using for the last 2 or 3 months in public, and I'll continue to use because I want to be consistent in my terminology, is I would like the board to consider this budget with modules. It's a basic budget. We've all seen them for years, but the modules are going to be the parts that will be bolted on or taken off or modified. Mr. Manager, do you have any other comment?
No, I would just note that the committee does have a meeting scheduled for the 25th of May, so that discussion is going to be starting at the committee level, and I'm sure Commissioner Sanderson will be reporting back to the full board.
Yes. So our recommendation is not going to be to adopt a budget in June. It's going to be to make multiple recommendations, multiple budgets, and then eventually in September, October, November, refine it to pass it in the normal course of business. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanderson. Health and Sanitation, Commissioner Robarchuk.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The next scheduled yard waste pickup by Penn Waste will be Saturday, May 19th, and you can find a complete schedule on Penn Waste's website of the pickups for the entire year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Robarchuk. Administration and Personnel. Guess we're going to, Commissioner Fleming.
I don't have anything to report. Manager Kratz or anything on the admin and personnel?
There's nothing to report at this point, Commissioners.
Police. Chief, thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, tonight I'd like to recommend for permanent employment, permanent retention, Officers Craig Lager and Tyler Perry have completed their 1 year of probation and have done so in an outstanding manner.
Move to appoint.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any comments?
I didn't realize we had a filmmaker on the police force.
Oh, we
Tyler
do?
Perry.
Okay.
That was a terrible joke. That was awful.
Any other comments?
I tried. That was
Okay, it's
bad.
been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Not coming from you.
It's
Aye.
it's been moved, okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That was a good joke. Yeah.
All right.
Fire and
heard that one
EMS,
before.
Commissioner Fleming?
Yes, Madam President, I will quickly go back to my notes here. Township Fire and EMS personnel attended integrated response to active shooter training. The training skill sets also transfer to mass casualty incidents, and the training was conducted by Fire Marshal Drees, Chief Bailey, and Corporal Soma with the Susquehanna Township Police Department. Today, Township Fire, EMS, and police personnel participated in a mock DUI crash at the Susquehanna Township School District. The presentation is given to all 11th and 12th grade students, emphasizing the dangers and consequences of driving under the influence of alcohol and texting and driving. And especially in this season, when it's getting warmer, it's prom season, graduation season will soon be upon us. There will be a lot of things to celebrate, certainly, but we want to make sure that you're celebrating in a safe manner. So, please, for students and parents alike, observe safety at these celebrations. And finally, there have been numerous reports of illegal burning in the past 30 days. Again, the weather's getting warmer. People want to be outside. Some people have fire pits and everything like that. Some of the reports that have come in have actually met the definition of illegal burning. Others have not. But fortunately, the township newsletter that just went out has some handy information on what can be burned, what can't, what is legal versus illegal. And if you have any other questions about that, please contact Chief Drees at 717-909-9255. Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleming. Before we do another report, I just want to take an opportunity to acknowledge Executive Director of the United Methodist Center, United Methodist Church, Ms. Kyla Crawford Harvey. And I just want to say hi and thank you so much for attending our meeting. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so now for my next report, Recreation, Commissioner Rabarchak.
Thank you. Day camp and playground programs will open on Monday, June 18th, and run through Friday, August 3rd for the playground program. Day camp will end on Thursday, August 2nd. Registrations are currently being accepted for day camp and playground programs, and the forms can be found on the township website or picked up at the recreation office. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Commissioner Rabarchak, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. The April planning meeting was canceled for lack of an agenda. The next planning meeting will be May 21st, and that comes a week earlier than usual due to the Memorial Day holiday. And I will also mention, without going into great detail, in regard to planning, we've been holding our public workshops for the comprehensive plan, and I attended one earlier this week at the Township Building. We had a lot of good input from residents. We had 2 of them this week, and there will be another one upcoming in June, and you can find information about that on the Township website. And the one thing I'd like to mention is we all like to see more residents get involved, and it doesn't require any technical knowledge. The word comprehensive plan, it sounds very technical, but basically what we're asking for residents at these meetings is very general. We want your input on what you think about the township, what you like, where you'd like to see improvements. So we encourage everyone to get out and get involved. And if you can't attend a meeting, there also is a survey that can be completed online, and you can find that on the township website as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Just to add on that as it relates to outreach, just so the commissioners are aware, one of the things that we did do from an outreach perspective is there was an insert in this most recent residential sanitary sewer bill. So in terms of broad outreach, that is perhaps the broadest outreach that probably is possible given the fact that the majority of your constituents are served by public sanitary sewer. So just remind folks to look for that insert in their most recent bill. And again, all of the information that the commissioner had reported on is contained on that insert. So just so you're aware that, folks are asking, how are you outreaching? That's a very broad outreach, obviously.
I attended a similar hearing or meeting
Yep.
last night in the Fifth Ward, and some of the residents indicated they knew about it through the sewer bill. So
Okay, good.
that was good.
Thank you, Manager. Bids and agreements. Manager Kratzer, do you want to take over TR Stoner, general contractor?
Sure, I'll pass it actually to the engineer, if that's okay, since
is.
I've reviewed. Yep.
Madam Vice President, members of the board, in your packet, you have the monthly application payment number 4 for the improvements at Veterans Park. TR Stoner is the contractor, and the amount of the request is $90,691.40. Just as an update, the contractor is on schedule. We would expect substantial completion on the project by early July, and 100% completion, and hopefully the ability to start using the facility in mid to late July. So we're on schedule, and I would recommend payment to TR Stoner in the amount stated.
Move to approve that payment.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Professional, number 2, proposal for professional engineer services. Mr.
Sure, I'd be happy to address this, Madam Vice President. Again, in your packet, you have, as the board may recall, back in December of 2017, the township had received a monetary contribution in the form of a grant from the Alexander Boyd and Jane Stark Boyd Charitable Foundation in the amount of $200,000. The intention for utilization of that was to develop phase 1 of what's being called Boyd Park per the grant agreement. Again, this was the land that was previously dedicated by the developers of Waverly Woods and Margaret's Grove. Phase 1 of the project involves access improvements, construction of a parking area, construction of approximately 1,900 linear feet of trail, and then the potential for a pavilion, depending on the availability of funds. Phase 1, just important to note, Phase 1 is intended to be performed using internal workforce, the existing labor force here at the township. But obviously, as part of that, there's some design work that needs to be done in preparation for that construction activity. So HRG has provided a proposal for professional engineering services. The amount of the proposal is $27,440. There's 5 primary tasks that are contemplated in the proposal. Wetland delineation, topographic survey, final design, construction drawings, erosion and sediment control plan, and then construction stakeout. The proposal would be paid for utilizing a portion of the $200,000 that was received through the grant, and staff is recommending execution of the professional service proposal.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Manager Kratzer, you're welcome. Do you want to do number 3, vehicles?
Sure. There's a copy of a legal ad in your packet. We're seeking authorization to sell 2 vehicles via municipal bid. Those are a 2010 Ford Explorer and a 2011 GMC Sierra. And again, we're seeking authorization. These are vehicles that were replaced through replacement vehicles that the board had authorized acquisition of back in January of 2018. So those vehicles have come in, and now we're seeking authorization to dispose of the excess vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Any comments? Yeah, I do have a comment, though.
Sure.
Since I asked.
Oh, that's fine.
I thought when we entered into an agreement with Enterprise,
Yep.
I thought this is what they were going to be doing. I thought they were going to be helping us get rid of our vehicles.
They do provide assistance.
Okay.
They provide assistance as it relates to the pricing of the vehicles. Again, because of us being a public body and us disposing of personal property, we have obviously certain requirements as it relates to both
Okay.
the advertising of the availability as well as either receiving sealed bids for that or conduct a public auction. So we've transitioned to use municipal in order to meet our statutory obligation as it relates to disposal. But they are very much involved in helping us establish what an appropriate initial price offering would be relative to this.
Oh.
So they are involved, but not
Not-
selling the vehicles outright, given our statutory obligations related to disposal of property.
And
Okay.
then, Madam President, that gets to my my question actually. What's the initial offer? What's the starting bid for? I don't.
Well, both of these vehicles are in fairly good shape. I'm thinking that between the two, we could potentially be looking at, I don't know, $25,000.
Okay, good.
Now, that won't be the initial offering in terms of the price, but
Right.
Is there a reserve? Is that how it's established?
yeah, so there's also, yes, we have the ability to establish a reserve through municipal bid, but even in addition to the reserve, we also have the ability to reject all bids. So
Okay.
to the
Okay.
extent that, even if you did not have a reserve, to the extent that it's not an acceptable bid or it's not reflective of market, we have the ability to reject the bid.
Okay.
And again, the transition to municipal bid has been really effective for us. Obviously, it's a much broader audience. So we've had folks come from primarily the mid-Atlantic states looking at our assets as we're disposing of them. And again, has really created an environment where there's competition and kind of broad exposure. So it's been much more effective for us, both in terms of the price that we're getting, but also we're not absorbing any of the cost associated with this. The buyer is absorbing the cost of the commission, if you will. So again, traditionally, we were using an auction that would take 25% of the proceeds of the disposal of these. This is a much more effective way for us to reach a much broader audience.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, where we at? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. And number 4, Dauphin County Local Share Municipal Grant Agreement, authorization to execute.
Sure. As the board is aware, you had agreed to serve as co-applicants for a number of entities that were submitting proposals for consideration under the Dauphin County Local Share Municipal Grant Program. Those agreements kind of, because we're not the primary applicant in many cases, they come to the respective primary applicants, but we as the co-applicant need to execute the agreements. Recognizing that these are form agreements, essentially they're all the same. We're seeking somewhat of a blanket authorization to have the appropriate township officials execute the agreements as we receive them back from the county or from the co-applicant, depending on the circumstance. And again, for the board's information and for the public's information, the applications that were awarded funding as part of this cycle that we served as a co-applicant for, there were a number of them. Wedgewood Hills Swim Club received $9,000 for a heat pump installation. The Jewish Federation of Greater Harrisburg was awarded $19,000 for a fire alarm system upgrade.
Excuse me, Manager, could you speak up a little bit? We
Sure,
don't have the
sure.
speakers over
Yeah.
here.
Cape Curtin YMCA was awarded $100,000 for an indoor pool conversion, so they're converting the indoor pool to a multi-use kind of facility or surface. And then we had also received funding for a piece of fire apparatus for Progress Fire Company, $25,000 for the replacement of a squad vehicle. And then $125,000 was awarded for our planned Southeastern Sanitary Sewer Extension, which is in Ward 5. So again, those are the applications that will eventually, or agreements that we will eventually get back. And again, recognizing that they kind of filter in. We were just saying that it's probably more efficient to deal with this through a blanket kind of authorization.
That sounds good, yeah. Can I get a motion?
Madam President, I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have Resolution 18R-07, authorizing the township manager to sign and submit an application for traffic signal improvement, signal modification to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the intersection of Elmerton Avenue and PSECU driveway, State Farm Drive, T-369. Do you want to speak about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to, Madam
Thank you.
Vice President. This was something that was brought to our attention by PSECU. They had hired Traffic Planning and Design, which is a local traffic engineering firm, to evaluate whether the warrants, again, when you make modifications to a signal, there's obviously certain standards, and PennDOT controls those standards and dictates those standards. And they use the terminology warrant. So you evaluate things to determine whether a warrant has been met for whatever you're looking at, for whether it be the initial installation of a signal or whether it be some sort of modification to a signal. So they were looking at the whether there was enough turning movements heading eastbound on Elmerton Road or Elmerton Avenue, turning into the PSECU driveway to warrant the installation of an advanced kind of left turn arrow to be installed as part of the signal. So they went through the analysis. They determined that, in fact, the warrants based on volumes were met, that there's enough traffic turning left into their facility to meet the requirements of PennDOT as it relates to the signal modification. So TPD conducted the initial evaluation as the consultant for PSECU. That information was provided to HRG for review, just for concurrence to make sure that there was no objection from a technical perspective on that. There was no objection from a technical perspective based on HRG's review. So now what PSECU is asking is for the board to consider, and again, this is standard practice as it relates to the application to PennDOT, is to have us authorize this application for traffic signal approval. PSEU is covering all costs associated with the modification, both whether it be design cost, whether it be permitting cost, whether it be construction cost, whether it be HRG's review cost. All of that is being covered by PSECU. But as the owner of the signal, it requires us to execute the application. So we're seeking authorization to be able to authorize the application for traffic signal approval through the resolution, which is a form resolution.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I would move that we authorize that application.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I don't have a comment about that, but since we're talking about the corner of Elmerton, I'm sorry, Betsy, but come on. Elmerton and State Farm Drive, Mr. Grubik, I know we talked about this some time ago. Heading east, but at the corner of Elmerton Avenue, it's at the corner of State Farm Drive. If you're turning down toward, like if you're going down toward Edgemont, you know how we have the right before PSCC, you can have that large part of the street that you can't turn on, And I asked you this one time before, could we look at that? Why couldn't we just make that, a turn? Why you couldn't make that like the right-hand turn, like heading down the street? You know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was a little vague to me, and I'm talking about it, but go ahead.
Just a little bit of history. When PSECU came in, there were certain criteria that were required by PennDOT to do some widening and improvements, one of which is the signal we just talked about. And at that time, we did request through PSECU's application that a right turn lane from eastbound Elmerton to southbound State Farm be installed. There were not enough traffic counts, traffic volume to warrant that at that time. The space is there, but it certainly could be looked at again.
Okay, because that's the same corner you guys are talking about. So there's enough traffic going the other direction, but not?
There's enough traffic going eastbound on Elmerton into PSECU, but not enough going eastbound Elmerton to State Farm.
I don't know if I could buy that, because that's the same traffic.
Well, no, they're going opposite directions.
Yeah, it is, but
One's
it's,
going left, one's going
yeah,
right.
that's right. But I'd say, but when you get right there at that corner, it's the same car. Okay, but if you could look at it again.
Absolutely, be happy to do that.
I certainly would appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks so much for remembering, because I was trying to get it right there. Thank you. Hi, Betsy.
Hello.
I guess you're going to talk about the Cone Road Hotel?
Correct. This is
Okay.
a request to reduce the site improvement guarantee at the Cone Road Hotel from $724,938.50 to $233,397.45. The township engineer has reviewed the request and recommends approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So-
And I guess you're going to talk about the amendment to the
Correct.
zoning ordinance? Go ahead.
Correct. This is an amendment before you're requesting to advertise a notice of intent to adopt. This is for breweries, wineries, distilleries, along with microbreweries, micro wineries, and micro distilleries, and brew pubs. So this would allow the township to be a little bit more progressive in our ability to have craft breweries. It's kind of an economic development status. The Planning Commission reviewed it at their meeting in March. The County Planning Commission reviewed it Monday, so both have recommended approval for this request. The ordinance itself provides definitions, parking standards, and just some general regulations.
Okay.
Love to have one of those in the Fifth Ward.
You do.
Maybe if you say it louder, maybe somebody will move into the Fifth Ward.
Is this an advertisement, Madam Chairman, is this an advertisement to, is this notice to advertise?
That is correct, yes. Yep.
All right, so then I make the motion to advertise.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any other comments?
Yeah, I just had a question. Were the parking standards based off any local establishments?
The local establishments, no, and they were based off other existing ordinances, just
Okay.
because we don't. We've done, when we did the drone survey with Shippensburg and the county,
Right.
we did a couple of restaurants, but we don't really have good numbers yet. I am working with them on looking at some other ways to do parking calculations, so you might see that in
Okay.
a couple months.
The reason I ask is because I've had occasion to see the traffic at one local establishment, and they do not have adequate parking. I mean, folks are just circling the parking lot, waiting for people to leave to get a spot.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure we weren't basing it off maybe someplace locally where they may not even have sufficient parking for their
No, we looked
business.
at Dairy Township's ordinance, and I believe West Hanover had an ordinance as well that we used.
Yeah, it was Dairy Township, West Hanover, and Upper Allen were
Oh,
some
well,
of
that's
the
local. Yeah, we'll talk
municipalities.
later then.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right. No, that's what I should have been more definitive.
I thought you meant in our town, like if I looked at specific restaurants in our township.
Oh, no, because we don't have one of these yet, so
Right,
I
right.
figured you were comparing to
Okay.
other established, okay.
Was
Yeah, I
Trogs?
believe Harrisburg's is pretty new, so I don't know. I think a lot of theirs might have applied before their new ordinance was adopted. I don't know what
The
Harrisburg
facility I
has. if
saw
you're-
was in one of those areas you mentioned.
Okay.
I was just
The
going to ask,
parking was not adequate, so.
did you look at Trogs in particular, an establishment in Derry Township?
I did
or-
not. I can
Okay.
look through those.
I was just
and see.
curious. Yeah. Very great things about it.
I have a quick question. What was the impetus for this? Are we getting interest from parties who may want to locate here, or?
Correct. We're getting interest from current restaurant owners as well as parties that could locate here. I feel like we're a little bit behind the ball as far as the trend of craft breweries.
Sure.
A lot of communities consider them kind of a economic development stimulus. So
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
thank you.
Unfinished business?
There is no change to the unfinished business report.
That's a huge section there. Reports. We have any traffic studies?
There is no traffic studies to present, and I have nothing additional, Madam Vice
Okay.
President.
So I'm gonna have to go down the line here. Police Department?
And there's a copy of the police department report in your packet, but nothing specific that we intended to speak on. If there's any questions that you have, the chief would be happy to address those.
Thank you. I'm going to drop down there. School board, you don't want me to ask the solicitor? Does he have anything?
Yeah, we have an engineer, if I may. Mr. Grubik and I were discussing the project, and he wanted to give us a little bit of an update, the Uptown construction project in the First Ward. I just had a few comments first to make. We've been getting calls because residents have not had their lawns completely restored, and there's some work that has to be finished from the project last year. And those issues are being handled by our township engineer. It's unfortunate that the contractor has not finished the work by now. It should have been done, but again, the township engineer is working to hold their feet to the fire to make sure everything that should be done gets done. And if you do have an issue you need to discuss, you can find information on susquehannaworks.com. It's our website. To deal with construction projects in the township, you can find schedule updates there, and you can also contact the appropriate individuals with your concerns. And I will say that the project is in the beginning phases, the areas that they'll be working this summer in Uptown. And again, our engineer is going to be working with the contractor to make sure they operate in a manner which is safe and respectful to the folks in the neighborhood. The project didn't go as smoothly as it should have gone last summer, and our engineers are working very closely, again, with the contractor to make sure they do right by us. One of the complications, of course, last year was the utilities. Coming in and doing work unexpectedly. It made sense, but we didn't have much notice, and we're kind of up against that again. They're staging a lot of equipment. They have huge trench boxes and loads of material all over the streets, and now they're waiting for a gas line relocation before they can begin their work. So it's an inconvenience to residents. Again, a schedule that's out of our control. The one thing I will say about the parts of the project that did not go well last year with the contractor, I think most of those issues have been addressed, but I think there's a bigger picture concern. The way we bid out contracts, by law, we're required to go with the low bidder. And of course, we all want the lowest price for taxpayers. Unfortunately, sometimes that comes at a cost. Sometimes you get what you pay for with the low bidder. And all of us have been invited to a forum government that works with state officials. And that's one of the things that I would like to talk with them about, how we get some guarantees. Yes, we want the lowest bidder and the lowest price, but we also want folks doing work who are responsible in the township because it's not helping taxpayers.
Is this the engineer's report?
Well, I could have
just
given it
wondering.
in commissioner comments.
I'm
but
sorry, what?
I could have given it in commissioner comments if you prefer. It's related
It's
to the
okay. I thought we
engineering
were
of
going to
the
hear from
project.
Mr. Grubik, though. But, I mean, is that the report? I don't mean to. Is that it? Is that the engineer's report?
Well, there are a lot of other items on the engineer's report, but just to reiterate Commissioner Barczyk's concerns, we are in constant communication with this contractor, have been since the beginning of the project. Their performance has been less than stellar, to put it mildly, and we have had experience with them in the past, and this seems to be the pattern of work that they follow. But we are on them constantly in terms of getting things done. Since the weather has broken now, and hopefully we're in a good period of weather coming into late spring and early summer, the remobilization should occur, and the utilities should have their work done, and which would allow the contractor to get in. But we are on them constantly. I reinforce what Commissioner Barczyk had said, and there, of course, have been concerns expressed by the residents in the area, rightly so.
Right.
And these are being addressed on a case-by-case basis among our field people, working with the contractor and working with the residents.
Okay. Is that the end of your report? Did you have
Well,
something else?
I'll give the rest of my comments under commissioner comments then, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I have a question for Mr. Grubik since we're talking about it. Can you just help me? I know there's an upcoming project here in Ward 8, a sewer project here in Ward 8. Where are we in that process? Have we unsealed bids as of yet?
Are you talking about the storm sewer work?
The
or
storm
or
sewer
the
work.
sanitary? We have a project on.
I'm sorry, I think it's sanitary sewer work.
Yeah,
Sanitary?
it's sanitary sewer, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the project has
That has-
been bid and awarded,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And who,
It's to the same contractor that's doing the work. So,
Well, how does that happen?
that was the answer? Well, because it's
That's
the-
exactly what I
we
was
were-
explaining.
Yeah, we are required to take the
lowest
lowest
bid.
responsive and responsible bid. And we had a discussion about this in the preamble to work being done. I mean, we were required to take lowest responsive and responsible, but I mean, and it gets to what Commissioner Rabarczyk was saying, what is responsible?
Yeah.
If you,
How is this?
Well, in this merits discussion, because there is a tremendous number of residents that have reached
Sure.
out to Manager Kratzer and myself, the engineers, it's not isolated incidents.
Sure.
It's widespread.
yeah, as the commissioner notes, though, largely it's a function of statute, right? So it's a function of what there's no definition for responsibility. That's a
Right.
subjective term. And there's not only statute, but there's case law relative to this issue.
So can I interrupt you just 1 second?
Yeah.
So, if there's no clear definition of responsive, then,
so a lot-
listen, so if I take the next person, who's gonna file a lawsuit? Or, like what happens?
The low bidder.
The
is
low
the one
bidder.
to
The low bidder's
file
gonna
The
win.
guy,
lawsuit
they say, oh, okay, and they'll win.
Yes.
based
Okay.
on case law. Correct, Mark?
Even though he's not responsive? Or it sounds
Responsible.
like, yeah, I was gonna say responsible.
And the responsible is sort of the sticking point. Now, obviously, if this contractor continues to develop a history of missing substantial completion deadlines and bond issues may pop up, then responsible may not be responsible. Maybe. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so when folks talk about responsible, a lot of times they talk about default of contracts. There's a difference between a default under a contract, which is essentially you walk off of a job and you don't finish the job,
Right.
versus
Versus not doing a job maybe
perhaps.
to the best of one's ability.
That's exactly where the line is drawn, Commissioner. And of course, in the case of the Uptown project, it is completely bonded. And the bonds are in place. They will be continued to be in place until the end of the project. And but there have been many cases where situations have been that the low bidder was not awarded the contract for whatever reason, not necessarily here, but other places, and the low bidder has filed suit against the municipality.
And one.
And one. It's a case law issue, and it's also a statute issue. State law governs, and municipalities are subject to it.
Are there things that municipalities can do to write the contracts so to bring them more into accountability?
Well, they're actually, the standard conditions that we use in all of our construction contracts for public works contracting procedures are very strictly and tightly written to favor the owner, in this case, the township. And the contractor must abide by them to the letter of the law, and we make sure that that is done. But like I said, all contractors are different. There are some, just like in any other business, there are some really good ones and there's some not so good ones. And in this case, the situation is such that we have dealt with this contractor before, and probably we'll have to deal with them again, as evidenced by the sanitary sewer project. But we will do everything in our power, working with the contractor, and if we have to get the solicitor involved at some point in time, we will do that, and we will actually get the bonding company involved if we have to do that as well.
It's a tough situation. Okay. So I forgot where we at. Did we were at the engineer's report. Okay, we finished there.
My report is in your
In the
packet. If you have any additional questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Mr. Fire Marshal, do you have anything? Thank you. School Board, Commissioner Fleming.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled recently that Susquehanna Township School District does not need to rehire former superintendent, Dr. Susan Kegerice. The court sided with the school board in determining that Dr. Kegerice failed to demonstrate a clear legal right to reinstatement. And while this is welcome news, there is still a federal lawsuit from Mrs. Kegerice, or from Dr. Kegerice, which is still pending. So, we're not out of the woods yet. Finally, some of you may have seen news reports this week about recent fighting incidents at Susquehanna Township High School, which were publicized via social media and then picked up in local media outlets. While the videos were disappointing, I was encouraged by Superintendent Dr. Tamara Willis's public statement that the district is taking the incidents very seriously, and they have a multi-pronged plan to improve school safety. As a graduate of Susquehanna Township High School, I would be lying if I said there weren't fights when I attended. But the difference between now and then, of course, is that, when I went to school way back in the late 90s, was that there was no social media apparatus to broadcast any incidents that happened in school widely. What I want to be mindful of is certainly this is a temporary setback, but I do want to assure all the residents that the school district is taking this very seriously, and I hope this poor incident doesn't negate all of the progress that is being made with the school board and the leadership team that's in place. So, Madam Vice President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Fleming. Indian Wheels, Commissioner Rabarchak.
No report, thank you.
Shade Tree.
Thank you. Residents who are interested in having a free tree planted in your tree lawn this October can find the application for the free tree planting on the township website or in the latest edition of the township newsletter. Requests are generally granted on a first-come, first-served basis. Please submit your applications at your earliest convenience. The deadline for submission is July 1st of 2018, and it is a very simple application. It's basically name, address, and the location of the tree. So it's easily done. Thank you.
Communication, Commissioner Pine.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. The Township newsletter has been designed, printed, and delivered to the post office. In fact, I've received my copy. I suspect just about everyone has. The 80th edition of the newsletter, dating back to 1978, was delivered to 13,839 residents and businesses on 27 mail routes. The cost for the mail prep, delivery to 3 post offices, and mailing of those newsletters was $2,713.26. In comparison to the previous edition of the newsletter, a savings of more than $4,500 was recognized. And this savings was made possible by utilizing a public-private partnership to have the newsletter designed and printed at no cost to the township. The only costs were postage and delivery. That is the extent of my report, and I want to thank Bob Reichert for his work on the newsletter and especially the savings that I mentioned.
Madam Chair, just as an aside, if memory serves, it used to actually cost the township nearly $20,000, printing and production and all those values. So that's an extraordinary savings. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Reichert.
Yeah. Human Relations, Commissioner Rabarchak.
No report, thank you.
Community and Economic Development.
No report.
No report. I don't know why we have Parks and Recreation down there again. We don't have any other. New business.
The only new business, Madam Vice President, is, again, we still have 2 vacancies on boards and commissions. So again, as we've communicated in the past, and I apologize here, I'm misplacing it. One is the.
One is Recreation.
Recreation Commission.
Shade Tree.
And the other is the Shade Tree Commission. So to the extent that folks are interested in that, or you're aware of folks that are interested potentially in that, or you have people that you think would be good fits for those bodies, if you want to just refer them to us, we'd be happy to provide them with information relative to the roles and responsibilities of those bodies, what the expected time commitment is relative to serving on those bodies. But as we all know, that service on these volunteer bodies and commissions is critical to our functioning and is essential to making sure that we're effectively operating. We very much appreciate that service, and to the extent that folks are aware of folks for these vacancies, please refer them to us. So again, we're just kind of keeping this on the radar so that we don't forget about this. So that the board can help in that outreach. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Kratzer. Now we're for commissioner comments.
Just to complete my thought on the Uptown project. Again, it doesn't impact the whole township, but anyone who lives there, works there, or drives through there certainly has these questions. One of the other issues we came across last year was the contractors would seemingly leave the project for weeks and not work, even though the conditions for weather and such were fine. And again, the issue with that is if they don't go beyond their deadline, we can't force them to come and work. So as unfortunate as it is, again, we're bound by rules and laws that we have no control over. And again, the other thing is the utilities. Holding up the project, it causes inconvenience for all of us, but again, our hands are tied. But to the extent that we can make things happen, we absolutely will. So again, reach out to the township if you have any issues or concerns, and township staff or the engineers will handle it. And thanks in advance for your patience.
Any other comments?
Madam Vice President, I just have one quick comment. Election Day is coming up, so just want to remind everybody to vote. And for 8th Ward residents specifically, just bear in mind that the polling place is across the way at Thomas Holtzman Elementary School at the entrance facing the north side toward the mountain.
Madam President, if I can also add related subject, the election location for the 5th Ward of Susquehanna Township is moving to a different section of the Susquehanna Middle School, back to the library area that we had for years, I understand. So it had been in the main entranceway in the most recent election. Now it's moving back to the library.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sanderson?
Nope.
I do have one question. I'd just like to offer a prayer for the Lynch family, to our president. We just want to let them know that we as a Board of Commissioners are praying for him. I hope it was okay for me to say that for the Board of Commissioners. And with that, we'll move on to the approval of report of bills paid.
Madam Chair, I make the motion to adopt the report of bills paid in the amount of $462,629.70. It's a rather light month.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried for the bills paid.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.